Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
Nathan's desperation reached a level that few could truly understand. Maxie had been lying unconscious for what felt like an eternity, her body fragile and motionless, her spirit somewhere out of reach. For Nathan, every passing second without her voice, her smile, or even the gentle squeeze of her hand was unbearable. He wasn't just her husband, her protector, her partner, he was her anchor, and she was his. To see her locked away in silence while doctors whispered their uncertain predictions left him drowning in helplessness. Yet Nathan had never been the kind of man who accepted hopelessness as an answer. So when a rare opportunity presented itself, a chance to try something unconventional, something risky, he didn't hesitate. He was willing to do whatever it took to bring Maxie back, even if it meant going against protocol and gambling with something untested. The hospital halls were quiet that evening, the dim glow of fluorescent lights stretching across sterile floors. Nathan paced outside Maxie's room, his heart pounding with both dread and determination. In his hand was the small vial, a drug not yet cleared by the hospital board, something only whispered about in medical circles, a compound designed to stimulate neural activity and awaken patients trapped in states of unconsciousness. For others, it was an experimental curiosity. For Nathan, it was hope in liquid form. He had obtained it through means that would never stand up to scrutiny, but at that moment, ethics and red tape meant nothing to him. What mattered was Maxie. What mattered was their life together and the promise he had made to never let her slip away from him. Inside the room, the sound of machines monitoring Maxie's vitals hummed steadily. Nathan stepped closer to her bedside and studied her face, pale but still radiant in its own way. He brushed a strand of hair away from her forehead and whispered softly, "I can't lose you, Maxie. Not now. Not ever." His voice cracked, emotion threatening to overwhelm him, but his hands remained steady as he prepared the syringe. The nurse on duty had already been persuaded to give him privacy either out of respect for his grief or unwillingness to question a man so visibly determined. Nathan knew there was no turning back now. Drawing in a deep breath, he inserted the needle carefully, the drug entering Maxie's bloodstream in a matter of seconds. He watched her face intently, his heart racing faster with every tick of the clock. At first, nothing happened. He feared the worst, that the drug had failed, that he had risked everything for nothing. But then, slowly, there was movement. Maxie's fingers twitched, ever so slightly, but enough for Nathan to notice. His eyes widened with disbelief. Then her eyelids fluttered, her chest rising and falling with a sharp intake of breath that sounded louder than any hospital machine could. She coughed, a rasp breaking through the silence, and her lips parted as though trying to form words. Nathan leaned in closer, his hand instantly gripping hers, tears of relief welling in his eyes. "Maxie? Can you hear me? It's me, Nathan." His voice trembled with anticipation, his hopes soaring higher with each second. Maxie blinked several times, her vision adjusting to the harsh hospital lights. Confusion clouded her face as she tried to make sense of where she was and what had happened. Her lips finally moved, forming a faint whisper. "Nathan." The sound of her voice, fragile but real, nearly brought Nathan to his knees. He pressed her hand to his lips, overwhelmed by gratitude that she was awake, that she was here, that she was alive. The moment was nothing short of a miracle, but Nathan knew that waking Maxie came with consequences. The drug he had used wasn't authorized, and if the truth came out, questions would be raised, not only about his actions but also about Maxie's recovery. For now, however, he refused to let the weight of consequences taint the joy of the moment. All that mattered was that Maxie had opened her eyes, that she was back from the abyss that had threatened to keep her forever. He couldn't stop the tears as he kissed her forehead, whispering prayers of thanks for her return. Maxie, still groggy and struggling to understand, managed to speak again. "What happened? How long was I out?" Her words were slow and disoriented, but Nathan hung on to every syllable. He stroked her hand gently, hesitant to explain everything right away. "You've been asleep for a while," he said softly, "but you're back now, and that's all that matters." He knew there would be time later for explanations, for unraveling the truth of her condition and the unconventional way he had brought her back. At that moment, all that mattered was the sound of her voice and the fact that she was looking into his eyes. As the minutes passed, Maxie's awareness began to sharpen. She glanced around the room, taking in the machines, the monitors, and the 4 drips still attached to her arm. The confusion in her gaze deepened, but alongside it was a spark, something Nathan hadn't seen in what felt like forever. Her spirit was there, alive and fighting, just as it had always been. Nathan couldn't stop himself from smiling, even through his tears. She was a fighter, and together, they had beaten the odds once again. But outside the sanctuary of that hospital room, the situation was far from over. Questions would arise quickly about how Maxie had awakened so suddenly after all medical attempts had failed. The doctors would want answers, and Nathan knew he didn't have a clean explanation. Already, footsteps echoed in the hallway, the medical staff surely alerted by the changes in Maxie's vitals. Nathan braced himself, torn between the desire to protect Maxie from unnecessary stress and the inevitability that the truth would soon surface. He had taken a risk that could cost him his career, his reputation, and possibly even his freedom. Yet when he looked back at Maxie, her eyes slowly clearing, her lips curving into the faintest trace of a smile, he knew he would make the same choice again in a heartbeat. The door opened, and a doctor stepped inside, his expression shifting from professional composure to astonishment the moment he saw Maxie awake. "She's conscious," the doctor said, disbelief dripping from every word. Nathan nodded, still clutching Maxie's hand. "She's awake. She's back." For a moment, the doctor simply stared, then rushed forward to check Maxie's vitals, his voice calling out to the nurses for assistance. The room quickly filled with staff, the once quiet space now alive with activity. Nathan stayed close, unwilling to let go of Maxie even as the medical team surrounded her. Through it all, Maxie kept her eyes locked on Nathan, her expression soft but questioning. She didn't understand how she had come back, but she didn't need the full truth just yet. All she needed to know was that Nathan had been there, that he had fought for her when she couldn't fight for herself. In her heart, she knew she owed her awakening to him even if the details were blurred. For Nathan, that was enough, for now. As the flurry of nurses and doctors surrounded Maxie, Nathan found himself being nudged back, reluctantly releasing her hand only when the staff insisted they needed space to properly assess her condition. Even then, he never strayed too far from her bedside. His eyes followed every movement, every beep of the monitors, and every whispered medical term exchanged between the professionals. It was surreal watching the same people who had nearly given up hope now buzzing with disbelief and excitement over Maxie's sudden recovery. To them, it was a medical anomaly. To Nathan, it was the reward of a gamble that had paid off. Maxie, still groggy and struggling to comprehend, answered the doctor's gentle questions with short responses. Her voice cracked, and her throat felt dry, but she was determined to communicate. "I'm tired, but awake," she murmured, her eyes fluttering toward Nathan every few seconds as if anchoring herself to his presence. That small gesture filled Nathan with pride and relief. She was awake, coherent, and aware even if her body was weak. The doctor scribbled notes quickly before turning to Nathan with suspicion and curiosity etched across his face. "Her vitals are stable. This is remarkable. Mr. West, did anything unusual happen before she regained consciousness?" Nathan froze for a split second. His heart thudded painfully in his chest as he considered his response. The truth could land him in trouble, but a lie could easily unravel under scrutiny. He forced a neutral expression and shook his head. "No. She just woke up." His words sounded thin, even to his own ears, but the doctor didn't push further, for now. The medical team eventually began to disperse, though a few remained to monitor Maxie more closely. Nathan wasted no time reclaiming his spot at her side, once again taking her hand into his own. "You scared me half to death," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Maxie managed the faintest of smiles, her lips curving just enough to reassure him. "I didn't mean to," she teased weakly, her voice raspy. Nathan chuckled softly despite the tension still weighing on him. "Leave it to you to crack a joke the minute you wake up." Hours passed, and though Maxie drifted in and out of sleep, she remained responsive. Nathan never left her side. Every time her eyes closed, he feared she might slip away again, but but each time she opened them and whispered his name, relief washed over him all over again. He stroked her hair, kissed her forehead, and silently vowed never to take another moment with her for granted. Still, in the back of his mind, he knew the storm wasn't over. Sooner or later, the questions about her miraculous recovery would return, and Nathan would have to face the consequences of his actions. Later that evening, the hospital wing grew quieter, the chaos of the day settling into calm. Maxie, more alert now, studied Nathan with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "You're hiding something," she said softly, her gaze sharp despite her exhaustion. Nathan stiffened, his hand pausing mid-motion as he brushed her fingers. "What makes you say that?" he asked, trying to mask his unease. Maxie tilted her head slightly, a knowing look crossing her face. "Because I know you. You've been carrying something heavy, and it's written all over your face." Nathan sighed, realizing she could see through him as easily as she always had. I couldn't stand seeing you like that, Maxie. Every day felt like I was losing you more and more. I had to do something." Maxie frowned, her brows knitting together. "Nathan, what did you do?" He hesitated, debating whether to confess the truth or shield her from it. Ultimately, he decided she deserved honesty, even if it complicated things. "I gave you something. An injection. A drug that's not exactly approved." Her eyes widened slightly, a mixture of shock and disbelief crossing her features. "You injected me with something experimental?" Nathan nodded slowly, his grip on her hand tightening. "I had no choice. They weren't helping you, Maxie. The doctors said there was nothing else to be done. I wasn't going to stand by and let you fade away. I took a risk, and it worked. You're here. You're alive. That's all that matters to me." Maxie studied him for a long moment, her emotions swirling between gratitude and concern. Part of her wanted to scold him for taking such a reckless chance, but another part of her couldn't ignore the undeniable truth: his gamble had saved her. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "You could have lost me. What if it hadn't worked? What if it hurt me instead?" Nathan cupped her face gently, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "I couldn't think about that. I just knew I had to try. I couldn't lose you, Maxie. I wouldn't survive it." Her heart ached at the raw vulnerability in his voice. Despite the fear his actions stirred, she understood the depth of his love. She squeezed his hand weakly and whispered, "You're crazy, but you're my hero." Nathan chuckled through his own tears, pressing his forehead against hers. "I'll take crazy if it means I get to hear your voice again." As the night wore on, Maxie drifted into a more natural sleep, her breathing steady and calm. Nathan sat quietly beside her, replaying the events of the day in his mind. Relief warred with anxiety, gratitude with fear. He had gotten what he wanted, Maxie was awake, but the road ahead was uncertain. How long would the drug's effects last? Would there be side effects? Would the hospital discover what he had done? These questions loomed heavily, but he pushed them aside, choosing instead to focus on the woman lying peacefully before him. Meanwhile, outside the room, whispers were already circulating among the hospital staff. Maxie's sudden recovery was nothing short of miraculous, and not everyone was content to let it remain unexplained. Doctors wanted to study her case, to understand what had caused such a dramatic turnaround. The hospital board would surely demand answers, and Nathan knew that secrecy could only last for so long. But for now, he wasn't ready to let the outside world intrude on the fragile bubble of happiness he had reclaimed. As dawn broke, soft light filtered into the room, casting a warm glow on Maxie's face. Nathan leaned back in his chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him, but he refused to close his eyes for more than a few seconds at a time. Every breath she took, every stir of movement reassured him she was still there. When Maxie's eyes fluttered open again, brighter than before, she offered him a small smile. "Good morning," she whispered. Nathan's heart swelled at the simple words, a reminder of everything he had almost lost. He leaned down to kiss her hand. "Good morning, beautiful. I've missed you more than you know." Maxie laughed softly, though her voice remained weak. "I think I can imagine. She studied him quietly for a moment before adding, "We're going to have to deal with this, Nathan. Whatever you gave me, people are going to ask questions." Nathan nodded, already knowing she was right. "We'll deal with it together," he promised. "As long as you're here, I can handle anything." The weight of morning brought with it a sense of reality that neither Nathan nor Maxie could escape. While the night had been filled with intimate exchanges of gratitude and whispered promises, daylight had a way of forcing the truth to the surface. Nathan could already sense the growing curiosity of the medical staff. Nurses glanced into the room more often than usual, their eyes filled with wonder and suspicion. Doctors shuffled charts and murmured in hushed tones, clearly puzzled by Maxie's case. Nathan knew the questions were only beginning, and the fragile secret he held wouldn't remain hidden much longer. Maxie, propped slightly upright in her bed with the help of pillows, had regained enough strength to carry on a conversation without drifting off mid-sentence. Though still weak, her spark was returning. Nathan sat beside her, his hand resting over hers protectively. She studied him closely, her sharp intuition never missing a beat. "You're worried," she said softly, her voice tinged with understanding rather than accusation. "Not just about me, but about what comes next." Nathan sighed, leaning back in his chair. "How could I not be? The doctors already think this is a miracle, but miracles don't come without questions. They're going to want answers, Maxie. Answers I can't give without exposing everything." He rubbed a hand across his face, exhaustion etched in every line. "If they find out what I did, I could lose everything. My career, my credibility, maybe even you if they think I put you in danger." Her eyes softened, and she reached out to squeeze his hand with surprising strength. "You'll never lose me. Not for this. You saved my life, Nathan. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Her words wrapped around him like armor, offering comfort even in the face of looming consequences. Before Nathan could respond, the door opened and Dr. Collins stepped into the room, his expression calm but curious. He greeted Maxie warmly, then turned his focus to Nathan. "Mr. West, may I speak with you privately?" The words made Nathan's stomach tighten, but he nodded reluctantly, kissing Maxie's forehead before following the doctor into the hallway. Once outside, Collins wasted no time. "Maxie's recovery is extraordinary. I've been a doctor for many years, and I've never seen someone regain consciousness so abruptly after such a prolonged state of unconsciousness. It's baffling." He paused, narrowing his gaze on Nathan. "I need to know if anything unusual happened before she woke. Anything at all. Even something you might not have thought relevant." Nathan kept his expression guarded, though inside his nerves rattled. "Like I said yesterday, she just woke up. I was holding her hand, talking to her, and suddenly she opened her eyes. That's it." His tone was steady, but he could see the doubt flicker in Colin's eyes. "I see," the doctor said slowly, clearly unconvinced. "Well, we'll be running further tests to understand her condition. In the meantime, I want you to prepare for questions from the board. They'll want a full report." When Nathan returned to Maxie's room, she was waiting with a questioning look. "They're suspicious, aren't they?" she asked quietly. He nodded, closing the door behind him. "Very. Collins doesn't believe this just happened on its own. They're going to keep digging." Maxie chewed her lip thoughtfully. "Then maybe we need to be honest. If the drug worked on me, maybe it could help others. You could turn this into something positive instead of hiding it." Her suggestion struck Nathan like a double-edged sword. On one hand, she was right, the drug had worked, and if shared responsibly, it could save countless lives. But on the other hand, his method of obtaining it, the unauthorized use, and the risks he had taken would all come under fire. He could lose his license, face legal charges, and be branded reckless. "I don't know if I can risk that, Maxie. Not when everything I did was off the books. If they find out, they won't see me as a hero. They'll see me as a liability." Maxie leaned toward him, her eyes blazing with determination despite her frailty. "Then let me speak for you. If anyone should decide whether what you did was right, it's me. I'm alive because of you. I'll tell them everything, Nathan. I'll fight for you, the way you fought for me. Her words filled him with both pride and dread. He loved her strength, her fiery spirit, but the thought of dragging her into the storm he had created made his chest ache. He kissed her hand again, murmuring, "Let's wait a little longer. Let's make sure you're fully recovered before we take on the world." The following days were filled with constant observation. Every hour, doctors checked Maxie's reflexes, responsiveness, and memory. Nurses recorded every small detail, from the way she sipped water to the speed at which she answered questions. To them, she was a case study, but to Nathan, she was simply Maxie, his heart, his everything. Each time she smiled at him or teased him gently, it reminded him why he had taken the risk in the first place. But whispers traveled quickly in a place like General Hospital. Some staff began speculating openly that Nathan had played a role in Maxie's sudden recovery. A nurse who had seen him enter her room with a syringe the night before she awoke mentioned it quietly to a colleague, and soon the rumor reached higher ears. Nathan could feel the shift in atmosphere whenever he walked through the halls, curious stares, quiet conversations that stopped when he entered, the weight of suspicion pressing down harder each day. One afternoon, as Nathan stepped out to grab coffee, he overheard two doctors speaking near the nurse's station. "There's no way she just woke up like that," one muttered. "Something happened. And I think Nathan West knows more than he's saying." The other doctor responded, "If that's true, he's in serious trouble. Using experimental drugs without authorization? That's a career-ending move." Nathan clenched his jaw, anger and fear warring inside him. He wanted to shout at them, to defend himself, to explain that it hadn't been about rules or careers, it had been about love, about saving Maxie's life. But he held back, knowing that outbursts would only fuel suspicion. Instead, he carried the coffee back to Maxie's room, his resolve strengthening with each step. Inside, Maxie could sense his turmoil. She patted the space beside her on the bed, urging him to sit. "They're closing in, aren't they?" she asked. Nathan nodded. "Rumors are spreading. It's only a matter of time before they confront me outright." She squeezed his hand, her eyes unwavering. "Then let them. We'll face it together. I won't let them paint you as reckless or selfish. You saved me, Nathan. That's the truth." Hearing her say it gave Nathan a flicker of hope, but he knew the road ahead would be anything but easy. Love had driven him to defy the rules, and now love would have to help him withstand the consequences. The tension in the hospital grew thicker with every passing day, and Nathan knew it was only a matter of time before the truth came crashing down around him. He lived in constant fear of being called into a meeting with the hospital board, where pointed questions and accusations would demand answers he wasn't ready to give. Maxie, meanwhile, grew stronger with each sunrise, her resilience a reminder of why he had taken the risk in the first place. Every laugh she shared, every sarcastic quip that slipped from her lips, breathed life back into his world. But with her recovery came sharper questions, not just from the doctors, but from Maxie herself. One evening, as the two sat together in her room, Maxie spoke up with a seriousness that left no room for evasion. "Nathan, you have to promise me something. No matter what happens, no matter what they say, you won't let them turn this into a mistake. You saved me. That's the only truth that matters." She reached for his hand, her fingers threading through his. "And if they try to take you down for it, I'll be right there fighting beside you." Nathan gazed at her, torn between admiration and fear. "Maxie, I don't want you dragged into this mess. You've been through enough." She shook her head firmly, her strength shining through despite her still healing body. "I was unconscious for weeks, maybe months. I didn't get to fight then, but I'm awake now. I'm not going to sit back and watch you take the fall for saving my life." Before Nathan could respond, a knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Collins entered, his expression grave. "Mr. West, Ms. Jones, I need to speak with you both." He closed the door behind him, his tone formal. "The hospital board has been made aware of the circumstances surrounding Maxie's recovery. They've asked me to investigate further." His gaze shifted directly to Nathan, steady and unflinching. There are reports that you may have administered an unapproved drug. Is that true? The air in the room grew heavy, the silence stretching long and tense. Nathan's instinct was to deny, to protect himself, but he felt Maxie's hand squeeze his, urging him to hold his ground. He drew in a deep breath, his jaw tightening. Yes, he admitted finally. I gave Maxie something. It was experimental, untested here, but I did it because every other option had failed. She was slipping away, and I wasn't going to let that happen. Colin's expression remained unreadable. Do you realize what you've done? Using an unapproved drug is not only against hospital policy but also potentially dangerous. If it had gone wrong, Maxie could have suffered irreversible damage, or worse. Maxie spoke up before Nathan could respond. But it didn't go wrong. I'm alive, because of him. You can stand there and list all the risks, but none of that changes the fact that Nathan saved me. He did what none of you could do. Her voice, though still somewhat frail, carried the weight of conviction. If you want to punish him for saving my life, then you'll have to answer to me first. Collins looked between them, his composure wavering under Maxie's fierce defense. He sighed, adjusting his glasses. The board will make the final decision. I'll have to report what I've learned, but I'll include your testimony, Maxie. Perhaps your case will open the door for further research into this drug. But understand this, Nathan's actions cannot simply be overlooked. After the doctor left, Nathan buried his face in his hands, the enormity of the situation settling heavily on his shoulders. Maxie, however, refused to let despair take root. She touched his arm gently, her voice steady. We'll get through this. They can't take away what we've already won. I'm here, Nathan. I'm alive. That's our victory, no matter what they say. The following week brought more tension. Nathan was officially summoned to meet with the board. The sterile conference room felt colder than any hospital ward he had ever walked through. A panel of stern-faced individuals questioned him relentlessly, their voices sharp with accusation. Where did you acquire the drug? One demanded. Did you administer it without medical clearance? Asked another. Nathan answered honestly, refusing to hide behind excuses. I did it because I had no other choice. Maxie was dying. I couldn't stand by and watch. When they pressed about the source of the drug, he hesitated, unwilling to reveal the details that could endanger others who had helped him obtain it. All that matters is that it worked, he insisted firmly. Maxie is alive because of it. That's the only result that should matter. Meanwhile, Maxie prepared her own defense. Though still regaining her strength, she insisted on attending the hearing, refusing to let Nathan stand alone. When the time came, she entered the room, her presence commanding despite her weakened state. She stood before the board, her voice unwavering. You all talk about rules and regulations, but you weren't the ones lying in that bed, fading away while your family lost hope. Nathan gave me something none of you could, he gave me a chance. If you punish him for that, then you're punishing love, compassion, and bravery. Her words silenced the room, leaving the board members visibly shaken. In the end, the board reached a compromise. Nathan would not lose his license, but he would be placed under strict probation. The drug would be submitted for formal research, with Maxie's case serving as the foundation for study. It wasn't a complete victory, but it wasn't the ruin Nathan had feared either. And most importantly, Maxie remained by his side, stronger each day, her fiery spirit unbroken. As the ordeal settled, Nathan and Maxie found solace in the quiet moments away from the chaos. Sitting together in the park weeks later, Maxie rested her head against Nathan's shoulder, the autumn breeze carrying the scent of change. You know, she said softly, one day they'll thank you for what you did. They'll see that you weren't reckless, you were just ahead of them. Nathan kissed the top of her head, his arm wrapped securely around her. I don't care if they ever thank me. As long as I have you, that's enough. Maxie smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. Well, you're stuck with me. Forever. And in that moment, as laughter replaced fear and love outshined the shadows, Nathan knew he had made the right choice. Rules could be broken, reputations could be rebuilt, but the life he had saved, the love he had fought for, was worth every risk.